Hey guys, Hackexploit here, back again with another video, and in this video we're going to be looking at how to generate rainbow tables with RainbowCrack. Alright, so this was another video that was really requested quite a while ago, but I've decided to do it now, and for the reason being that I haven't really covered the generation of rainbow tables on my channel, and this is, as you know, very important, because when you talk about password cracking, rainbow tables and word lists are extremely important. Now I've covered how to generate word lists with Crunch, so you pretty much have a good idea of how to generate word lists and how to use them for different types of attacks with Hydra or with Medusa, you know, etc. You get the idea. But when it comes down to cracking password hashes, this is where rainbow tables come into play. Now, of course, this is quite an advanced type of thing that not many people talk about, but extremely important, and I've come across it many times, because if you try cracking a password hash, for example with John the Ripper, and you use a word list, then it will take an extremely long time given the complexity of the password hash. It doesn't really matter, the algorithm really doesn't matter, but if it's more complex, then you get the idea, it's going to take a long time. This is where rainbow tables come into play. Alright, so you might be asking yourself, what exactly is a rainbow table? Well, essentially a rainbow table is, simply put, a table of hashes that are encoded by a particular algorithm. Alright, so this is a table of hashes that are encoded by a particular algorithm. For example, base 64. It could be encoded with base 64. That's just a simple example. Now, the hash tables are a hash of each word stored in the table. So essentially what's happening is the tables are hashed, and then the hash tables are a hash of words stored in the table. Alright, so rainbow tables are used to crack password hashes, and of course you get the context in which I'm saying this. They are used for offline attacks only. That means you can't use rainbow tables for cracking, for online cracking, meaning cracking, for example, a captured packet file, or the handshake, trying to capture a handshake. You can't crack that with rainbow tables. Now, of course, I'll be talking about GPU cracking in probably the next videos, because this is an area that I haven't really covered as well as I would have liked to, but that's for another day. So rainbow tables are used to crack harder and more complex hashes. You can crack basic hashes with word lists, but when it comes down to really, like for example system hashes, or if you use the hash dump on your exploited system and you got some password hashes, cracking them will be in best practice performed with rainbow tables. Alright, so we are going to be using RainbowCrack being the package that we'll be using. And before we get started, I just want to let you know the philosophy behind a generating rainbow tables is that what's happening here is that rainbow tables uses a dictionary attack. Now let me explain why. That's because what's happening here is we're essentially guessing. Of course, it's calculated guessing based on the parameters that you have specified, but if you're using a word list, what's happening is you're essentially going through each of the words sequentially, or however you decide to sort the word list. And as you probably would have guessed, if the word does not exist in the word list, then you're not going to get the password. But if in the case of dictionary attacks, it's going to go through random combinations of the different characters, of course hashed by the algorithm, but I'll explain that in a second. I don't want you to get too carried away. Alright, so we're going to be using RainbowCrack, and RainbowCrack is a package that is used to generate the rainbow tables, and the syntax is really quite simple. So as you probably would have guessed, I'm using Kali Linux. Alright, so let's get started. So I'm going to open up my terminal here, and let me just expand that so we can see what's going on. And the syntax to start it up is RTGEN. Alright, so rainbow tables generate. Alright, now of course RainbowCrack is a package that has other functions that probably I will cover in the next set of videos, but this is something that I really just want to demonstrate because it is extremely important in the scope of a penetration test, especially when you talk about password cracking. So we use the syntax RTGen, alright, and that will essentially prompt up the rainbow tables or the RainbowCrack rainbow tables generation. So you can see that it gives you the syntax here. So you specify the RTGEN to start it, and then you specify the hash algorithm. Let me explain something very important here that many people muck up. Alright, hashing algorithms are specific The hashing algorithm here is specific to the hash in which you are trying to crack. Let's say you're trying to crack a SHA-256 hash. You need to then specify, you need to then create a rainbow table and specify the SHA-256 algorithm here. The character set you can then specify to whatever you feel is suitable. Now, of course, this can be done with experimentation, but you get the idea. But it's very important to specify the hash algorithm in direct correlation to the hash, the password hash that you're trying to crack. All right, so let me go through the syntax here. The character set is essentially, this will encapsulate all the possible characters that you want to specify in plain text. All right, you then have the plain text length. This is the we can talk about the index, but the length minimum, these two parameters essentially will control the plain text length of the range in the rainbow table. All right, so I'll explain this. So for example, you can specify the range of 1 to 7. So this can be A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then you get the idea. You can specify a minimum or a maximum. So you can say from, if you wanted to specify from B, you would say 2 to B, C, D, E, F to like 5, that will be B to F. All right, so that's your range. That's how you specify the range. Now, when you talk about the index, essentially what this does is the table index will select the what's it called, the reduction function. All right, so this will essentially use a different reduction function. Now, of course, this is a bit advanced, so I'll not cover what the table index does. But when you talk about the chain length essentially controls how long the rainbow chain will store the plain text, and how essentially the length of the plain text and what is required to generate the character set. Now, of course, this might sound a little bit complex, but hopefully as time goes on, I'll explain all of this. All right, and then you have the chain number, which is right here, which essentially this will specify the number of chains you want to generate. All right, so rainbow tables essentially have an array of rainbow chains. All right, and the size I'll explain later on, because again, this is very complex cryptographic stuff here. And then finally, we have the part index, which is used to store the large chain. It's going to store the large rainbow tables into smaller chunks. All right. And again, we can specify this. So with that out of the way, of course, I know that's a mouthful, and hopefully I'll have the resources on my website so you can check them out for yourself. But the syntax is quite simple. So let's generate our own rainbow table here. And I'm going to keep it really, really simple. So I'm going to say rt-gen, and let's say we wanted to crack a SHA-256 password hash. So specify the hash algorithm here. So SHA-256. And then I would then specify the character set, which is, for example, I wanted to specify lower, the alphanumeric. I believe that is specified as followed. I checked up on the resources and the documentation for RainbowCrack. So that's how you specify the character set. And then you need to specify the character range here, which is the minimum and the maximum range, which is really simple. So for example, if we wanted to say A to let's see, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, sorry about that, I, J, we can specify to about J. So we can say, or we can say 10, which will take us all the way to I. We then need to specify, after that, we then need to specify the length of the chain. Now, of course, the length of the chain is something I'll probably need to explain quite a few times, but this is essentially the length of how long a chain can be. So the length here I would specify is 1,000. Of course, I'll explain all of this probably in the next video, because there's a lot of stuff here that is in regards to encoding and cryptographic type of calculations. We then specify the chain number, the number of chains to generate. So I'll specify a modest number like 2,000. This seems to work best. Or we can actually specify this to be 4,000. This will be a pretty good rainbow table. And then finally, we would specify the index here. Let's see, what index would we need to specify here? You know what, I'm not going to specify any index. So I'll just keep this as 0, because I don't want to chunk it down. I don't want to chunk the chains down. So once that's done, I'm going to hit enter and it's going to start generating. Whoops, for some reason we didn't, that did not start up anything. That's weird. Let me just see what the error, the issue is here. I believe I specified everything that I needed to specify. Did I specify? I specified the minimum and the maximum. Ah, yes, the table index. That's what I forgot to specify. So the table index will essentially, this is the reduction function that will be used here. We can keep that to 0 because again, that's not really what we need to do now. And there we are. So it started and the rainbow chain was generated. So actually, where exactly did it store this? Probably stored it in my root directory. Let's see where this is. Is it in my root directory? I'm not too sure where it stored it, but let me just try and find it here. It probably stored it in the RainbowCrack folder, which I believe is in the user share folder. Let me just go back here, user, and we can say share, and it should be in RainbowCrack. Let me just find it. Sorry about this, guys. I should have been more prepared. And for some reason, I can't find it. RainbowCrack, there we are. And where is, yeah, there it is. This is the one that we generated. So here is the rainbow table. Now, of course, I would recommend that you specify your output directory, which I'll look at, probably in the next set of videos when we'll be looking at GPU cracking. But here is our rainbow table, and essentially you can now use this rainbow table. You can see the extension is a .rainbow table file, so we can use that to crack our password hashes, and you can specify this as your rainbow table. So you can always rename it to keep it simpler, and you can always experiment with the different type of character sets and the range as well. If you wanted to have the whole alphabet as your range, you can also specify that as well. I'll be talking about the functions that I've not explained really well here, and that's because I want to give you guys the exact information. So that's probably something I'll be taking a look in the next set of videos. So that's going to be it for this video, guys. I hope you liked this video or you found value in it. If you did, please leave a like down below. If you want to support the channel, you can support the channel on Patreon. I would really appreciate the help, any help that you can provide, but you really don't have to if you don't want to. That being said, that's going to be it for this video. If you have any suggestions or questions, let me know in the comment section on my social networks or on my website, and I'll be sure to leave you some feedback or an answer. So that's going to be it for this video, guys, and I'll be seeing you in the next video. Peace.